This is Duke University.
So we started out about 5 years ago. Mark and I and an artist, Casey Alt, who used to teach here, who's gone, and we started with a kind of narrow idea that we were interested in all the kind of digital things and other movements that are part of gameplay but that don't seem to get captured in gameplay. So we were thinking about how can we design something to, this was a kind of project that we were going to do, design something to bring that into the field of what's going on in the game, to feed it back into the field of the game, and so on. And we never really got started with that project. But Casey left, and Mark and I started the lab, and we had discussions for a while and decided that what we wanted to do was use digital media, and in this case physical computing, Arduino components that allow us to set up biometric sensors and environmental sensors to build systems or platforms that would allow us to ask questions about the limits of sensation, and maybe to ask about sensation beyond human sense organs, human perception, and how that is part of human experience without being something that's capturable through contents of consciousness, the kind of phenomenological and perceptual and psychological models that we've inherited from the tradition to think about experience. So we started out with one project called Thermometer that actually pre-existed in the lab, and I worked on it with Pinar, who's a member of our lab, but who's probably writing her paper right now, which is happening after this. And it was to be a camera. We're still working on it. It hasn't been done. In fact, camera that's hooked up to a galvanic skin response and a heart rate monitor that would take pictures at moments of bodily arousal, and that wouldn't necessarily come with a conscious correlate. We might not be aware that this is a moment where we're attuned to the environment, and we wanted to let people wear this for a period of time and see if it changed their idea of how they think about sensibility and their relation to the environment and the ecological nature of sensation. We then moved on to a project called the Biometric Book Project. Maybe Mark, you want to?
Yeah, sure. So this project emerged under something we're calling the Biometric Selection Engine, which is riffing off of these biometric tools to think about the ways in which certain states that may be subperceptual might nonetheless be leveraged for their value. And we find this happening increasingly with neuroscience and the like. But we thought, what if we would do this to provide a Cliff Notes version, if you will, tailored to your individual body about kind of key texts within the work we've been doing. So we chose Giorgio Agamben, What is an Apparatus, in part because it was short. And we then produced a wearable system that would measure your arousal rates as this was read back to you through a PDF engine. And then what we produced out of this was a set of books that are the output of that. So you have the full essay, but then we produced a version that is redacted based on the elements that fell below the threshold, a lot of black, and then this one is simply chopped down with just the minimal text.
And we got really excited as we were thinking about having a service online where people could send us their favorite text, and we could send them a kit, and we would make these books, and selling these things, whatever. And then we were going to do a cinema version where you had 3 people hooked up through a NeuroSky interface that Luke was working on, where depending on their attention levels, the film would either move fast or slow or get blurry or whatever, and just to see what kind of social experience it created. And we may still do that, but right now we're going to present to you a project that, and I should introduce everyone. So Mark Olson, Luke Caldwell, Max Symuleski, Patrick LeMieux, who you just heard, David Rambo, and Pinar Yolas, and there are a couple of us who aren't here. So this was David's idea. It's inspired by the work of Bernard Stiegler, who's a media philosopher, although he doesn't like to be called that, and he's got this idea of the need for a new critique of political economy based on what he calls a general organology. And so this is a kind of distributed organology in which each of us is going to provide one individual component of our bodily relation to the environment. The environment's going to help too, because there's a temperature sensor in here and a light sensor. And together, those things are going to be fed into a system and drive some media that we're going to show you. So,
but something's not.
I think right here, yes,
working.
Yes.
Can somebody?
Something's not working.
Yeah. We need to test each person.
Oh, we don't have batteries plugged
Yeah.
in. Let's see.
Oh, this is not hooked up. This one's not hooked up.
It's not hooked up.
1 second.
We tested it yesterday.
Why
It
are
worked
we
fine.
not getting
Of
in?
course, probably shouldn't have done that.
No, unless I'm just 1 second, guys.
Should it be from that one?
Huh?
Should it be from that one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That one.
Yeah. This. I feel like we're not getting anything from the iPad. It's a really robust thing, though, so I don't understand. Unless. Oh! Okay, I understand now. Okay, we can fix this in like 1 second. The ground is not grounded in the iPad because it broke off in transit.
Do we need a stripper?
Need a stripper, yeah. Do we have one? You may have a pocket knife. Pocket knife is fine.
You want a stripper?
Pocket knife.
Scissors are fine, yeah. Any of that. Sorry, guys. There we go.
There's jumping. There you go.
There we go. Have we taken off?
Failed out
Something
our
should be
computer.
happening.
He's jumping. Well, he was.
He was. Yeah.
This is an object lesson and talking about the limits of digital abstraction.
Exactly.
Luke, where's the knife again? I need to unscrew the screw head here. It's just the blade of the sharpest knife. Oh, that's better than the blade. An actual screwdriver. Okay. Transit problems. I think it's all working now. Yes. Good. So, David, you need this.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's one.
I can hold this for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any of this? No, I'll hold it.
I'll
tape.
hold
You
this
need
for
tape?
you,
We have
too.
tape. Where's the tape?
Do you have a piece of tape?
We do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's right
in front of you.
How about right there? Does that work, Mario, for you?
Yeah,
For
that
you,
works.
Mario? You getting C's? On the text? Check. There you go. There you go, buddy.
You got it.
All right. Okay. All right. So this is titled Networking Synesthesia Beyond the Sensorium, a Prototype. Quote, when we remember that spiritual experience is quickening, that positive science, the firmest basis of human thought, is tottering, that dissolution of matter is imminent, we have reason to hope that the hour of pure composition is not far away. End quote. This passage is taken from Wassily Kandinsky's Concerning the Spiritual in Art, which was first published in English in 1914. His non-objective, abstract, modernist painting sought to crystallize the emotions of the human soul in a union of color and form corresponding to the instruments of a symphony. When Kandinsky's synesthetic compositions did not re-enchant modernity, but they did not.
That's okay.
Reification of aesthesis and noesis are at an all-time high. Profit is the new substance. Surplus value withdraws within every object and every bodily palpitation. Recently taking up this disenchanting commodification, Bernard Stiegler's For a New Critique of Political Economy translates many of Karl Marx's original insights into Stiegler's own idiosyncratic vocabulary of technics, which I will be using and lampooning. Marx's analyses into the cultural creation of artificial needs beyond subsistence, as well as labor's reliance of capital to realize its own productive capacities, these get rebranded by Stiegler as a credit system which organizes pretensions. And regarding the revolutionary content of the proletariat, quote, a genuine mutation of grammatization has occurred. Digital reticulation, whereby cognitive activities are themselves proletarianized, constitutes a rupture through which associated milieus are formed. End quote. Whether the reader finds this rearticulation exhilarating or debilitating, Marx basically remains intact. However, in the recent work, Stiegler maintains the new-centric bias, N-O-O, not N-E-W, new-centric bias of his Technics in Time volumes, to which Mark Hansen has lately drawn our attention in a New Formations article. For although it is correct to say that Marx could not have foreseen the extent to which credit-reliant consumerism has come to dominate Western capitalism, the extent to which Stiegler separates the ongoing present phase of memory's industrialization and its concomitant consumerism from the exteriorization of savoir-faire, so central to the work of Marx and Engels, belies a retrogression, perhaps to Hegelian idealism. We can illustrate this retrogression in two steps of Stiegler's argument. First, he takes up the Marxist theory of real subsumption by way of Platonic dialogue. Quote, what Socrates describes in Phaedrus, namely that the exteriorization of memory is a loss of memory and knowledge, has today become the stuff of everyday experience in all aspects of our existence. End quote. Yes, the industrial hypomnesic apparatuses of digital networks reify so much more of human activity, proliferating commodities and rendering labor subservient to technique. But the process of grammatization narrows the technical history of memory into the formative works of the mind. Stiegler's main concern revolves around short circuits in the transindividuation processes of the consumer. This focus rightly distinguishes between the working class and a much broader proletariat, but Stiegler interrupts this development of real subsumption as being possible only once technical apparatuses store self-conscious thought. Actually, capital's implementation of machines has always reinforced the division of intellectual manual labor, which, moreover, artificially divorces the sensuous materiality of activity from its ideality in the form of pure science and mathematics. In other words, the idealization of thought as a distinct unit ignores the full range of abstraction which techniques apply to the body's sensuous, not necessarily conscious experience. Stiegler's unwarranted emphasis on the contents of consciousness leads us to the second illustrative step, the identification of political economy with the question of a sociotherapy. Essentially, Stiegler's new pharmacological critique of libidinal economy aims to contribute to an economy of contribution that restores the creative work of odium, or the intermittent times of leisure used for mental cultivation. By creating new forms of public property, this new critique would revitalize the incalculable over and against the values which are exchanged in markets. But this is no revolution, for Stiegler views the restoration of odium as a necessary component to the restoration of market value. What he calls desolidarization, or what amounts to an inability for people to relate or identify with other people, quote, lies behind the decline of market value, according to Stiegler. And the triumph of drive-based consumerism over a middle class leads to absolute disenchantment or lack of odium in any belief in the world. Only odium, writes Stiegler, can reconstitute credit, that is, an economy, an organization of pretensions. That the odium of the people is conceived as the saving grace of contemporary political economy arguably directs us to Hegel's Geist. The knowledge extracted from Stiegler's proletariat is theoretical, and its restoration constitutes a psychotherapeutic only so long as it contributes to his new politics. With this end in view, is not the contemplation referred to by odium of the people more akin to the self-consciousness of Hegel's aesthetics than to a critical intervention in political economic theory? The critique for which Stiegler calls is in this respect an old pre-Marxian one that revives Hegel's insistence that spirit self-actualization is the movement of history. Against this overt distinction between intellectual and manual labor, which tends to privilege the intellectual, the S-1 Speculative Sensation Lab began work on a modular, multiplayer, multisensory platform, a prototype of which is in action before you. This reticulated synesthete inverts the exchange abstraction's qualityless measure into a qualitative dynamic. Each module picks up a certain signal and contributes to a communal milieu, which happens to be a modified Super Mario Brothers plus a text processor. And yesterday we were also tinkering around with Tetris, but it was really boring.
I liked it.
Okay. I was just reading this. We do not limit the modules to thinking things. My breath and speech direct Mario to the right and types C. A heartbeat jumps and depresses the Enter key. A limb's flexion turns Mario's walk into a run and types X in the text document. A heat sensor types V and turns Mario around. On screen, right here, a light sensor picks up the pixel changes of drifting clouds to press maybe tab or enter.
It's doing enter.
It's enter,
sure,
okay.
Yeah.
In text and pause or unpause the game. Speculative sensation takes into account the insensible just as much as it does the ordinarily sensible. A lab space strips the environmental noise from its experimental situation. S-1 speculative lab space strips the constraining parameters from its experimental environments. There we go. The social network has neither overt point nor play ending goal. Each module's contribution is Each module's contribution is arbitrary to begin with, so that the new group of dynamics may emerge beyond the denatured and objectified intercourse of saleable data. The social network has been formalized in a way alternative to its intended manner of consumption. Mario adventures for adventure's own sake, without title, without reward, without Princess Peach in mind. Pretensions or anticipations scaffold out of bodily sensations and machinic coordinates beneath the threshold of consciousness. An Arduino board takes about 100 microseconds.
Stop talking.
I know. to read an analog input, so the maximum reading rate is about 10,000 times a second. S-1 Odium is neither just of the people nor constrained to noema. In addition to a collaboration between individuated sensations and computational interfaces, it takes into account a normally ignored facet of the temporal objectivity of a popular product, the clouds. Merleau-Ponty writes, if a being is consciousness, he must be nothing but a network of intentions. That's the Colin-Smith translation. S-1 calls attention to the expansiveness of the act of sense-giving, making it visible by distorting it. We speculate synesthetically. To reduce speculation to a cognitive-centric therapeutic follows the theory of immaterial labor and its fetishization of the cerebrum over all other forms of creativity. As if intelligence had not been abstracted out of the most rote of mechanics in this very building when its purpose was to roll cigarettes. On the contrary, S-1 exchanges commerce and its customary narrative of value realization for an opening to new questions. When we remember that speculative experience is quickening, that instrumentalization, the firmest basis of positive science's alienation, can totter, that the dissolution of matter is impossible, we have reason to believe that the hour of impure composition is not far away.
And for anybody who wants the PDF of this text output, just let us know with your emails before we're done.
It makes it quite good.
Yeah. Or, 10 years from now, somebody could toss this and figure out exactly what went down today.
All right, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
This basically involves all your other sensory models, but then for me to be able to see that, I will have to be basically be a seeing person. So how would that work for somebody who is either blind or who lacks certain visuals that is required to perceive the output that you have?
Well, Patrick has written an entire talk on blind gamers, so I'll direct you to his expertise.
I knew we should have included the black MIDI generator as part of this. We originally did intend to have a MIDI piano playing, but time constraints. Certainly other forms of output should also be modular, plug and play. Anything that you can run in the background should be able to be added. So if you have any ideas, let us know and we'll add it.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.